I don't know what he's asking, folks. Okay, so this is going to be kind of fun. I said, I don't want to know what the questions are ahead of time. So I just wanted to add that in. So over to you, sir.
All right. So we've already had, a pretty good discussion around mentoring and what is it and stuff like that. But in your book, you actually define key concepts of mentoring. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, for sure. And just for people to see, this is the cover of the book, Pathway for Mentoring Now, Mentor Within, Mentoring Without. And the book is up on Amazon, so I just wanted to get that component out. Now, in the book, what I did was that I was reflecting on my own practice of mentoring. So this is very much about that practice and seeing what is possible. And therefore, from a practice point of view, I needed to understand the concepts, a lot of the concepts that would be necessary to understand the way in which I go about my practice. And my practice can be somewhat slightly different to what Doug does in terms of how he unfolds it. But I thought that I would share it. It was time, and that's why I did it as Mentoring Now, all right, and to bring some of those concepts out. And what happens is that there's 7 core categories, and of that, there are 5 sort of key statements in each of them, right, that brings out this concept of practice. But some of them are really concept-based, right, thinking about it, and then some, whoa, where did you go? You dove into a whole bunch of really neat and kind of interesting practices. So did I cover what you were after for that one?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So as I think back to going through the book and the different aspects, one particular chapter talked about committing to moving in and moving on. Can you share a little bit about what your thoughts were with that?
Yeah, the idea there is actually comes back to reflection in, reflection on. And the idea there is that while you're in the mentoring, and this is what I, again, tend to do, something I learned through my days of serving as an educator in a lot of different settings, colleges, university, workshops, retreats, all that, is that I learned that I can reflect while I'm in things. And I might get a feeling, oh, hang on, I got to do a little adjustment. Or there's a lot of wiggling going on in the room. I better do a little adjustment. I'm reflecting in it. So when you're interacting with the mentee, you can pick up some nuances. We can call it body language, you can call it words, we can call it whatever. There might be just an intuitive, hang on a minute, something has to shift just slightly here, right? And that's reflecting in. It's while I'm doing it. But I also learned, and this was a really valuable skill for me, is to sort of go outside of myself and look on what's taking place. So it's sort of like I am there, I'm present, but I'm able to actually look at the two of us to find out what's going on. And there I might pick up, it's getting kind of noisy. Hang on a minute. Is someone looking at us or looking over our shoulder? Is there something that's going on here about the on aspect of this mentoring I need to pay attention to, right? And so I was able to then work this reflecting and reflecting on, so that if there is some adjustments that had to happen, I could do so. But also reflecting in allowed me to sometimes take some notes if it was okay with the mentee. Reflecting on gave me another set of notes at the end of it as well.
Okay. This particular one, when I looked at it, I thought, this is interesting. So let's, the statement, walk together with the value of safety. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's that is an interesting one, because unbeknownst to me, but as I started to reflect on mentoring and a lot of the things that I was doing, I realized that I had actually created a safety approach. Is that when I interacting with people, I manage the safe systems for the person. Therefore, the systems being the structure, the arrangement, and I lead the person, myself, from safer practices, ways that we interact, our relationships and that. So I started to really, okay, what's the safety thing about? And I started digging into it. And that's where I mentioned earlier about that psychological safety aspect. And to be able to understand as well, there's the physical, the mental, emotional, there's socio spiritual, there's the whole picture of looking at it. This notion of safety really came to the forefront. And I mentioned about stay present. There's an actual another phrase that I use, which is stay found. And that comes about because of years and years of wilderness remote first aid that I instructed. I kept saying to people, you got to stay found even when you've got someone that's injured with you. Don't get lost by walking around if you find yourself, not quite sure where to go, or don't start walking out if sending someone out might be better than trying to walk everyone out. So it was this concept of stay found. It's an approach. And how do you go about doing it? And that's why the value of safety, walking with the value of safety, is so important to keep it there. It may not be always in the forefront, like myself, I haven't always quite picked it up, but it's always been an underlying approach that I use while I'm mentoring.
Good, good. One last question, and celebrate certification is the way. What were you thinking?
Well, there might be a sort of an obvious connection. I'm director of education certification for IMC, but where I was really coming from was the following: just because you think you can doesn't mean you should. And Doug and I have talked about this before. There's people who might go, well, I got lived experience, or I got something, I could mentor someone, I could coach someone. Well, it doesn't mean you should. And if you are going to go down that road and you're new to it, I would encourage you to seek out the certification that goes with the educating approach that you want to use. So if it's coaching, you can go down the coaching road. For us, mentoring is go down the mentoring pathway of certification. So it's the way, right? Certification is a way of learning, but I'm also attempting to put a little bit more oomph, right? A really technical term here, putting more oomph on the way forward with mentoring. I certainly encourage you, not just because I'm the director of education certification, I get that, but to truly have it, to deepen your practice, go into certification and be with others in community. That is why it's the way, not a way. It's the way of being able to bring it forward for yourself.